All right, hey everyone. We're here for another episode of the MC Anime Podcast, and we have a special guest with us today. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I am Chandrai. Feel free to call me CS because that's easier.
Okay. And tell them a little bit about yourself more.
Well, I don't think there's anything worth mentioning about myself, but yeah, I'm a small podcaster as well. And yeah, life's going pretty good. I think that's it.
Okay, well, that's a good introduction. So, what we have for the 11th episode of MC Anime is military depicted in anime. So, when military plays in anime, it's usually they have a standing army, and that standing army enforces policies in the anime universe. So if we take that concept and apply it to either military operation type anime or war scenarios, then that's how they play it out in that capacity. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think, in my opinion, it's basically, I mean, it's a very cool concept, and it's just like a real war type thing in anime as well. So they don't really make any mistakes in that place. I mean, they just make it as real as it can be, which is the coolest thing I feel.
Yeah, that is actually really cool actually. And
Yeah.
uh anime that we were talking about today include
Hmm.
Attack on Titan, Violent Evergarden, Daring in the Franxx, and Seraph of the End.
Yeah.
So the first anime we're going to discuss is Attack on Titan. So we see
Yep.
Attack on Titan. How do we see the portrayal of the military concept in the anime? It plays out with the survived corpse, with handling different Titans and basically being able to go out and attack different Titans as well.
Uh-huh.
And the main reason to do so for all of this is to keep the peace and try to bring sustainability to the different interlocking cities that are, blocked off of the different sections. So what
Yeah,
do you think
I
of the
think
story?
that I think that Attack on Titan is, I think, a very basic military setting, but again, it's really amazing because the history of this Titan and everything is just so cool.
Mhm.
And the way it goes back is basically, it just sounds so real that you cannot say that it's only a fantasy or a made up story. I mean, it's amazing how it goes.
Yeah.
And also, how the survey course work is also something which is very realistic and very amazing at the same time, because you can really see how it works, and in the real army as well, that's how things work, which is pretty dope and cool.
Yeah, and also with the Survive Corps, they are a branch of the military most actively involved in the direct Titan combat, Titan study, human expansion, and outside exploration. So they
Yeah.
have different roles that they play, but in that different role, like for example, Titan combat, they know so much about the Titans in battle that the other branches of the military in Attack on Titan is limited what they know, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's a big deal in itself, because knowing the strategies, it's really cool how they know that the nape of the nape of the Titan is where basically its weak point lies, and it's so damn cool. Like, the whole concept, it's really inspirational and cool. So it's something that in real life as well, you can find in armies, and not only in real life, but I think that the fictional setting is one thing, but the strategies that the survey course has is just basically it's real and not fictional.
Oh yeah. And then not only the Titan combat, but they also have the Titan study. Like we see them
Yeah,
experimenting, finding out more about the Titans, and in doing so, they find out so much. And in the process of finding them out, they go on the campaign to reveal the past to present day and how that applies in Titan knowledge. Kind of
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, very interesting.
And also, a really interesting thing about Titan biology, each Titan that we see in the show, like the common Titans is different types and all of that, but then we get into the special Titans. Those have special characteristics above the other Titans.
Yep, they have. I think there are 9 types, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
and all of them are like they have special characteristics that differ them from each and every other type, which is amazing because they gotta research a lot to get into that depth of
Yeah.
knowing so much about the Titans. It's amazing.
And Aaron, the main character, gives him so much knowledge into the
Yeah.
Titan. He is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
One.
Eren isn't really a favorite character of mine, but I think that a lot of people started liking him in season 4.
Yeah.
Basically, that's like, I think that's okay, but he's sort of anti-hero now, and I am really not a big fan of that. But anyway, I think a lot of people like that.
Yeah. And then we have the human expansion mission. We're basically
Yeah,
trying to expand their territory, and if one day to possibly go outside the walls and actually live is what the goal is.
yep,
So it seems to support the idea of possible hope to get outside the walls one day.
yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty nice, right? I mean, just for them thinking about getting outside the walls is such a big idea that they are ready to risk their own lives, and like it's amazing. But you can also see the fear in the people inside the walls. They are just so damn scared that they don't want to go outside, and they
Yeah.
curse the people who go outside, which is again something that comes with the main plot, and also something that's really realistic as well.
Yeah, it provides a understanding of what the motive is, but also what the insecurities are. You have one side wants to have the hope to escape to find another life, while the other ones that have been there for 100 years are accustomed to the old life and they don't want to leave it.
Yep, that's really something the anime does, that it's just so realistic. Even when I think about the Titans, it just still it seems so realistic because Titans are just they are just like villains to them, but when
Yeah,
they come to know the truth, it's not really like they're villains, but they're actually one of them, which
yeah.
is
It's like that
that's so
irony.
obscene but good
Yeah,
at the same time.
it creates like a bunch of irony in the conflict. And when they
Yeah,
found the truth, it's basically revealed that everything. It's revealed that everything is not what it seems to be. So what is going on really challenges the status quo, what they know.
yeah.
So the final mission that they try to do, they're responsible for its outside exploration. One of the first
Hmm.
missions that they usually do is go outside the walls and explore. This is before
Yep.
they actually start fighting directly with the Titans. This is mostly as like, what is out there? What can we do? How many Titans are out there? Stuff like that.
Yep. And I think
And this,
that's also pretty cool that they can really go outside. And after they came to know about the Marlians, that was pretty cool actually, because Marlians are on different level. Like they are totally equipped and they have the knowledge of all the titans. It's so cool. But also survey course comes to know about this pretty soon, which is again very nice and cool because I think that the knowledge that AOT has really expands after the third season.
Yeah. Yeah, and they also it's also seen in the show that when they do the outside exploration, it can actually be really dangerous because one of the missions, the public is really criticizing the scouts of them going out, and they had a lot of casualties as a result of it.
Yeah, I think that was a very heartbreaking scene as
Yeah.
well because I mean so many people just died and it
Yeah.
was just a massacre. But again, it was really heartbreaking. At the same time, it was like they have learned something new. Now they have something to go ahead with and they can really investigate on that, which was again a very cool thing.
Yeah, it just begs the question, you know, the world around them ain't safe, and even if you go outside the wall, you're not guaranteed to be safe.
Yeah.
So it really supports the notion is there like it tests the resolve. First of all, they have to see if the resolve to come to an understanding of the Titans and their hopeful escape is worth it in the end.
Yep.
What do you think? What do you think about the testing of the resolve and
Yeah,
how that
I think that,
transpired?
yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything to say on that because, well, I think that the whole anime is basically going outside your comfort zone and getting out there and exploring the stuff that the outside the wall world has to offer. And I mean, have you read the manga by the way?
A little bit,
Out of
yeah.
the Blue World.
Dabbled in it a little bit. It's
Yeah,
kind of
I think
different,
that everyone knows the ending.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
sad, but I guess that's how it ended.
and they also send their best soldiers, most skilled, and the vertical maneuvering equipment, which is the equips that they use to latch on trees and other titans. Oh, let's talk about that
Yeah,
for a second. The virtual
yeah,
maneuvering equipment.
yep.
That's like the main fighting style to fight the titans.
Yeah,
So if anyone that is not aware what virtual maneuvering equipment is, it's literally the gear in which they launched onto their backs, and the survived corps mainly use it, but also the military police brigade also use them. It's a set of equipment by the humans for greater mobility when facing the Titans in combat. Enables to fight in a 3D space as opposed to a 2D one. The equipment itself takes the form of a body harness that encases much of the body below the neck. What do you think about the fighting style they invent to fight the Titans?
I think that is wonderful because thinking that you're gonna fight someone who is twice or thrice or 10 times as bigger, like 10 times bigger than you are, I think there has to be something like that. And thinking that they were really not that civilized and not that scientifically improved like Marlians were, they have done quite a good job, right? I mean,
Mhm.
having something so wonderful to literally like fight it off against the Titans, it's good. Like, it's really good. Like, Marlians had so much advantage. Like, they have these tanks already and all these things, but the people inside the walls, they don't have that, but they still have something to fight with, and they can really go against the Titans with that, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, it basically evens the playing field in the fight against the Titans, and they also
Yep.
highly skilled in it too. They symbolize the hope of mankind, the insignia being known as the wings of freedom. So, if not only are they symbols, but it also means the insignia is wings of freedom. So, they're basically expressing their way to fly in a combative way on the Titans, flying to the sky with the equipment.
Yep.
And for anyone that doesn't know, flying in this case is not actual wings. It's using the harness equipment to basically latch on to structures and buildings and Titans themselves as a way to maneuver around them and use the cable connected to the structure to exceed in the space they're fighting in. What's that weapon called? The boomerang or it's basically the instrument in which people use to latch on to buildings. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. Wait, what was that?
It's oh man.
God, forgot
Harpoon
it.
maybe? I think it was like a hooks. Piston shot grapple hooks. Grapple hooks.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's grapple hooks. The basic grapple
Yep,
hook.
yep, yep. Grapple hook. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally forgot about that.
The basic grapple hook in without anime terms is literally most of the time it's like 4 fish hooks, but when it launches on, it actually makes it so it's like an anchor. It anchors to the bottom instead of anchors at the bottom. It anchors into like a roof. You use it on the roof, and then you pull yourself and climb the building. People use it a lot of times to secure themselves or go up a building. Also, it's similar to a grappling, like a hook and line, a zip line. It's also the same concept as well. So
Yep.
it's kind of interesting because a lot of times when we see a grappling hook, it's really like superhero movies. You know,
Yeah.
they have the
Yeah,
grappling
yeah.
type device. Like let's say they have a grappling hook, they use it and they shoot out of it, similar to how they use it in Attack on Titan. They grab onto a
Yep.
building and fly through the air and then jump to buildings.
Yep.
But theirs is more like smaller. Like they shoot out the line and it penetrates the structure and then releases the hooks to have structure to stability. That's kind of cool. That's how they use it. That's the main fighting style. So through doing so, they're able to now greater mobility and fight the Titans in a way that we think is really interesting.
Yep. I mean, even though like they don't have that much um things, or they don't know that much about the outside world, they still have their own advantages.
Yeah, and they also they would gain more responsibility when the Titans penetrate the walls. So
Yep.
they have to now get the Titans out of that territory to make it more stable for recolonization of the area.
Yep, yep, yep. Totally.
So, I mean, that's pretty much, the survived corps that we see in Attack on Titan and how their
Yeah.
mission changes after they break the wall and, basically using Aaron as advantage in understanding the Titans more. 'Cause
Yeah.
without him,
Like,
their knowledge is so limited, they wouldn't be able to find everything like they were able to do before. So
yep.
it really goes to show you
I
that,
think that after Eren transformed, that when like basically when he transformed and everyone thought that he was dead. I think after his transformation and how people came to know about this, I think after that the survey course came to know more and more about the titans and how there can be other titans who are not really mindless. I think
Yeah,
that's the best part because Eren basically made like helped them in a lot of way with the the knowledge of the titans. That's amazing.
yeah, and without that knowledge, they won't be able to fight as well as they're doing right now. So,
Yep.
so that's the Attack on Titan discussion about Survey Corps. Now we're going to discuss Violent Evergarden.
Yeah.
Want to introduce Violent Evergarden to the audience?
Well, yeah, I mean, why not? Violet Evergarden isn't really, I mean, at first glance, it isn't really something like a war anime, but it's something basically which is post-war anime where the things have already happened, but when like the past that we see in basically Violet's past has a lot of things that can be counted into this war type anime. It's basically World War, uh, I guess it's something like that. And am I audible?
Yeah. So that's a pretty good start. Um, so Violent Evergarden, Violent is a former soldier who's enlisted into the, oh gosh, Lee Din Lin Lee Din Skadrith Army. That's a long name. And fought in the war, which was
Yeah, let's try to
war
shorten that
from,
up because I'm
yeah.
pretty sure I won't be able to say that.
Okay, you want to say the army? Do you know the army?
Oh well, I'm really not sure. I mean, it's been a while I've watched Violet Evergarden first of all,
Lin,
and
yeah,
I mean, I really think that
Lin
the
Din
army,
Skadrith.
it's not
There you
really
go.
introduced much about the army, but about her
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
There was like, yeah, it's pretty disturbing at the same time, but it
yeah,
was really sad. I think it's like one of the first animes that made me cry like a
yeah, yeah.
baby.
And she was also treated nothing more than a weapon. She became
Yep,
all the memories doll at the postal company after the war, seeking to understand the meaning of words. And
yep. I mean, that's
yeah,
that's such a different type of character that you won't find in every anime. And damn, the anime was like it was so good and it was so emotional and heartbreaking as well. At least I haven't watched the movie, so I don't know what happened after that. But the anime was pretty like okay. The series was like too sad for me.
oh yeah. And the now that's background about her character and how she's a member of that standing army. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. Lee Din Lay Din Skasovich is a country that's located in the southern middle part of the continental talus. One of the main locations in the Violent Evergarden series, and the location where Violet fought in the war. Um, so remember about the continent of Talus.
Well, from Violet's perspective, that's all we see, right? I mean, we see that. Wait, are we talking about the place where, like, are we talking about the past
This
or?
is where she fought in the war.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I don't remember much about it myself. Just remember a
Mhm.
few details from the past.
Okay.
Well, I remember
So
the place after she became the doll and all that, but I
gotcha.
don't remember before that one.
Well, yeah, it's important to know what kind of army she fought in before she, got control over this scientist that made her into something else. So, um, Talus it's elliptical in shape towards the east and the west, and it's the southern central region in Langdon, Langdon, Leyden Sarkasovich. Its capital, Linden, is located along the southeastern coast. Climate is hot and humid. Agriculture is high of the abundant water. Many of rice, strong. Okay, so yeah, so it is pretty straightforward in the introduction. She fought in this
Yep.
hot place with a lot of water. So as a
Yep.
result of fighting in there, her formal standing in the army is higher for the fact that it's really pivotal to understanding where someone begins, where they are now. That transition is very compelling to me.
Yep. I mean, for her, it was basically even she knew that she is a weapon, and her only task was to basically kill the other people, like the people who were against them. But to her leader, it was something else, and it's such a sweet story as well. I mean, it's so amazing just to think that someone else's opinion can matter to you so much that you can't forget that person. In a way, you still want to find out about that person. And I mean, gosh, we are going out of the war type. Like, what happened to that? We are just going to the story, huh? Okay. So it was really amazing how that happened. And especially also, I feel like the war thing and how they fought, it was also shown in a good way. It
Yeah.
was definitely not as long as the after story of Violet, but it was in a good way that we see that, there's nothing else we can do, right? I mean, someone has to die, it's a war. There's nothing anyone can do about it.
Oh yeah.
But the after, like the post-war trauma was still seen in so many people. I mean, it's sort of heartbreaking. Like a war can change so much in
Oh yeah.
someone.
And we also see the depiction of war affecting Violet as the weapon that they want her to be. So
Yeah.
that's telling in itself of how war situations treat others.
Yep. I mean, a war is a big thing, and not a lot of people understand that. But, war is like a really big thing, and it not only affects the two people in that war, but also the people around them, the people close to them or anyone. There might be situations where not someone like only two parties wants to have a war, but the others don't really agree with that. They are just a victim of that war, nothing else.
In a
So
brief
that is
history,
also something that's shown really well in Violet Evergarden, I feel.
and also a brief history of the country where she's located that did this war. Um, Lenindesk, Leiden, Lazovich has been invaded repeatedly by neighbor countries, aimed for its ports and natural resources. Many defeats, capital invaded by the enemy armies because many countries do not survive economically if trading services was to stop in this country. There were so many threats from foreign enemies targeting the mainland. If one studied the country's history, they'll find to be most recordings of battles against invaders. So that is that story and the setting and how it presents itself to Violet, you know?
Yeah, I like. I mean, damn, the story. I think that Violet Evergarden, more than showing the war scenes and showing the pre-war scenes and effects and how everything was, it shows how war affects a particular country or a place and how it affects the people living there. I think that's the main, like the setting of Violet Evergarden in a way.
And also, um, it's Violet herself that actually ends up winning the war in the final battle.
Yep, I
She's
mean
the ultimate
that's
weapon
how.
that she's the ultimate weapon that is now restoring peace. Now,
Yep.
the question is, when she turns into a weapon, does she still regain her consciousness, or does it only weapon mode? Let me rephrase. If she's in weapon in the doll state, does she still regain her humanity?
Well,
You
that's,
know?
I mean, Violet never had like feelings and emotions to begin with. She did have, but
Oh,
she
okay.
never could really express that in front of people. And that's the reason why everyone treated her like a weapon and not as a human. Even though she was young, she could never really express herself, except for only one person who understood her. The others just treated her like a trash, which was like really bad. But I think that after she became a doll, she started understanding things, and she also understood the last words of I think
Yeah.
Gilbert, his name was. Yeah,
Yeah,
so she also understood.
Her Major Gilbert in this
Yeah,
scenario is very pivotal to connecting to her humanity side. He's like
yep,
that balance to her and the support care that she needed to go through this situation.
yep. And even though we didn't see much of
Mm.
Gilbert in the series, but still, like, he was totally connected throughout the story. And I think he's the only character, especially in the army, I could really feel, bad about, because he died, and that was really sad for me. And he left someone who is really, who can't really express herself much, and something like that. Like, basically, Violet is really, like, she really has to work on expressing herself, but she couldn't do it being in the army, and no one treated her like that. I think if Gilbert was alive in the series, I'm not sure about the film though, but in the
Yeah.
series, if Gilbert was alive, then he would have like really been with Violet and would have helped her so much to, understand herself in the scenario. And also, like, I mean, you never know. It will have been such an happy ending, but yes, that didn't happen. But anyway, I think that the realization that Gilbert was dead really shook Violet, and it also, got her human emotions out. She could really express it after that. That was amazing. I mean, a person can affect so much to the other person. We could really see that in Violet Evergarden.
Yeah. I really like the concept of, you know, even though she's treated as the weapon she is and not really understand, there's still some human side that we see. And that's often the case when you have like limited emotions or, artificial type scenarios. What how they express their emotions is subtle, but over time throughout the story see more and more of it.
Yep, totally. And I think that's the beauty of Violet Evergarden and Self. Like, how human can someone be? And it's not like she's like she doesn't have feelings, but she couldn't express it, which was like so so sad to even think about, that you can't really express yourself freely with the people you are like, with the
Yeah.
company you have. And it's really sad, but again, I think that she really have emotions, and I think everyone has emotions. And the final realization that Violet has was that she is not a weapon. She
Yeah.
is a human, and she is really someone who can express, as well as she also has feelings, and she feels bad at the same time. She is like any other human that we see.
Yeah. She ties into and she also loses her arm during the final battle. She was given a Millentine silver prosthetics. She literally says to herself, clumsy but sturdy. So that limited vocabulary signifies, they're awkward, but they feel really good. They can do a lot, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was also a very pretty, like, that was very amazing to just know that you can have such things because before watching Violet Evergarden, I had no idea about this fake arms and legs that could have been there. Plus, also the typewriting thing was also pretty new to me. But yeah, I mean, at that time they didn't have computers and laptops, so I guess that's how it happened.
Yeah, that, it really signifies the relationship that over along the way they she expresses, and, the human side that come out will relieve itself to be who she is. It's really, it's really strange to do characters that have limited either vocabulary or limited motions, because you really
Yeah.
have to draw them to state the emotions they are feeling. So everything is
Yep.
based in how they act.
Yeah. I think
So
that's also something that's the magic of the person who drew it and the studio in itself because I mean it's so difficult to get someone's emotions out. And with Violet it was like a different scene in itself. You also gotta have the music, like the background music that would really make sense for that.
yeah,
And it was amazing. Like the whole aesthetic of the anime is so relaxing, but it also is pretty heavy to take.
yeah. So this ends. That's a good transition for the next um talking point. Daring in the Franks. What do you want to
Yeah.
introduce about Daring in the Franks?
Oh, well, actually, Darling in the France was like the first mecha I've watched, and it was not really too mecha type for me because I also know Code Geass and it was like pretty mecha. But Darling in the France was more on the concept of emotions and love, but as a matter of fact, because those kids were basically, they didn't had the freedom to express themselves. But with some time, they learned how to do that. And the concept of France was also like pretty dope to me. Though
Yeah,
I do think that the ending could have been better.
pretty dope. That's funny. And a brief synopsis of what the series is. Distant future, humanity has been driven to near extinction by giant beasts known as clock. Oh my, Cloxosaurs, forcing the surviving humans to take refuge in massive fortress called the Plantations. Children raised trained to pilot mechas known as the Franks. Only weapons known to be effective against the Cloxosaurs. They have often the female and male counterpart pairing system. Children know nothing about the outside world, only able to prove their existence by defending the race. Hero, aspiring Franxx pilot, lost the motivation, self-confidence after failing an altitude test, class graduation, skipping it, Forest Lake, encounters a mysterious skill, two horns, by her codename Zero Two, belong to the infamous Frank pilot known as the Partner Killer. So yeah, we introduced to Zero Two in Creature. She engages in Franks that attacks the plantation. Finding her partner dead, Zero Two invites Hero to pilot the mecha with her. Easily defeats the Klaxosaur with a new partner by her side. Hero has now been given a chance at redemption for his past failures, but what at what cost?
Yep.
And for anyone that doesn't know, this anime also inspired a really meme. There's like was a particular dance, and it was shown all over the place. But that's not why we're discussing it. We are discussing it because um the mecha aspect is really geared in this organization to defeat them, the Exosaurs. So what's your description of the Exosaurs that could be kind of good? The creatures that
Sorry,
which
I
they're
didn't
fighting.
hear you. What?
Can you describe the creatures they're fighting? Ugh.
Well, like the Klaxosaurus and the Franks?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, there has to be a female and a male partner for, driving the France. And the Klaxosaur is like a little confusing if you have completed the series, but normally if you see, they are basically robotic type things, which are basically villains in the anime. That's the most ineffective way I can explain this right now.
So are they man-made and they're just going out into territory, or they're from another dimension?
Oh,
'Cause
they are man-made, right?
okay, yeah. So usually, when we see all these creatures, they either come from the depths and attack on humanity, or they come from a different dimension. So I guess in this
Yeah.
case, they're man-made.
Oh, yeah, they are man-made, and I don't remember much of the past, but yeah, I think that the it was the Klaxosaur Queen or something,
Mhm.
right? And the doctor was also like he was pretty he was attracted to the Klaxosaur Queen, and that's the reason why Zero Two was made. Which
Yeah.
is again, it's a little different because okay, I never knew people really did that sort of stuff, but okay, I think that's that.
Yeah. Clastosaur is a biological weapon created by the Classo sapiens and the Darling in the Franks. Central antagonist for most of the series, but later joined forces with humanity to defend Earth from Verm. They're yeah. They're also piloted by male and female co-pilot Paxo sapiens. So
Yep.
it's kind of interesting because now not only like they're not like they're also mechas themselves. So
Oh
they
yeah,
also
yeah,
have
yeah.
male and female pairings against the same organization trying to defend them. So it really brings into question, are they really the enemy if we're so similar?
Well, I mean, it really depends, right? I mean, for them, it's a little different because I think at the end we got to know that Klaxosaurs are basically sort of aliens, if I'm
Hmm.
not wrong. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's also pretty fascinating in a way because, well, they are not aliens like the France, they are not aliens, but, well, they basically have to be controlled, whereas the Klaxosaurs, they are basically alienous creatures,
yeah.
which is, again, the ending.
So it really brings into question if, like, let's go back to Hira and his partner. So apparently
Yeah.
he's is the partner destroyer. Why is that?
Oh, well, because I think two or three people before Hero came into place. I think two or three people Zero to control the piloted the France with, and all of them died in a very tragic way. So when Hero and Zero Two came along, people thought about the same thing, right? I mean, that's how it is because maybe Hero will die as well, which is like okay. I mean, I think that works, but again, it's also a little difficult to judge. Even the
Yeah.
hero to even though hero didn't die, he did become a Klaxosaur at the end of the series. Sort of like that, right?
Okay. So it begs the question, um, if they're all enemies at once and suddenly be allies to face a new threat, were they really enemies from the get-go? or they're just misunderstanding about who they were and all that stuff.
Well, I think that there was a misunderstanding. I mean, like they didn't know much about the Queen Claxosaurus because of this doctor who just screwed things up. That's why things really went really bad for them because the doctor also, well, I think that the things turned bad because of the doctor. If those things wouldn't have happened, I think that this misunderstanding also wouldn't have happened, and maybe this Claxosaurus Fran's thing also wouldn't have happened. They could have lived a good life like the kids. They could have lived a good life and also away from the pressure of the people. You know, they basically, in the series also, I think that they were quite pressurized, to be good and, to help and be the saviors of humanity as well, which is also a little bad because it's also harsh for people, right? I mean, they are just kids. They aren't supposed to do that, but again, they had to do that as well. In the starting of the series, we see that the like it's a big deal. Like being a France pilot is a big deal, and they had to go through a lot of training before that as well.
And yeah, and one last thing, the military aspect, APE is the political organization of scientists and govern all humanity. They've worked, is in the nines, worked directly with Dr. Franxx in the creation of the Franxx program, pop-up by children and also adults alike. Members of the APE wear white robes and support unique mechanical mask. So, and then we have the
Yeah,
7 pages too.
yeah. I think I lost you.
Yeah, so basically, APE is the organization that funded and created the Franks program with Dr. Frank.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I remember that part.
So they're very vital as they are the organization that is literally creating the Franks program, which the Franks program is the military operation to face the Alexosaurs.
Oh yeah, and I think Papa was the part of that program as well, right? I mean,
Yeah,
he also helped in that, and that's why the kids admired him so much. They just thought that, I mean, who could have thought that he was the like basically the boss of those aliens? That
yeah.
was pretty different.
So it goes
But
to show
again,
you,
he was pretty much trusted by all the kids as well because they just thought that, you
yeah,
know, Papa assigned him something good and maybe he's gonna take care of all of them. And also the higher ranking
yeah,
Franks pilots, the other like the more arrogant kids who were
yeah,
there, they were like pretty strong, but they also were very, they were like basically they just listened to Papa all the time. They never
yeah,
said anything wrong about them. Even when Hero and his friends, uh, like they were suspicious of what Papa was doing, the others weren't because they trusted him that much.
yeah. This is a really interesting transition period to talk about Seraph of the End as well.
Oh yeah.
So, like, Seraph of the End, what do you think is transpiring in that anime for the military to be very active?
Well, the first part is that basically when things go wrong and vampires they basically take
Yeah,
away the whole world, and what the kids are told, like the kids who were basically trapped with the vampires were told that all the humanity is gone and only the kids are alive. I think that's what they were told, and that's why they basically had to live there and be with the vampires. For the vampires were basically like they had to have blood all the time from the humans, which was again very disturbing for kids. But again, I think that was the main concept. And after I think I forgot the name of the main guy. Who was that again?
Yeah. You have Yuriko and Michaelia. Alright, so with the appearance of the mysterious forest, because everyone above the age of 13, mankind became enslaved by previously hidden, powerful, hungry vampires to sustain society with the promise of protecting the survivors in exchange for donations of the blood. Among these survivors, uh, Yuchi Oro and Michaelia, two young boys, were taken captive from an orphanage with other children who they considered fairly discontent with being treated like livestock under the vampire's reign. Michaelia hatches a ridiculous, rebellious escape doomed to fail. The only survivor to come out at the other side is Yuichiro, who is found by the Moon Demon Company, military unit trying to exterminate the vampires. Now a member of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, is determined to take revenge on the creatures that slaughtered his family, but at what cost? Post-apocalyptic supernatural that follows a young man's search for redemption,
Yep. I
battling
mean
for friendship
that's
and loyalty. So,
yeah. I mean that's the basic summary for the story.
so it goes. Okay, so Mycelia is the one that escapes the demon, uh, the vampires, and then Eucurio is the one that escapes to the Moon Demon Company. Moon Demon Company is the basically humans that want to slay all the demons known as the vampires. Mycelia takes the side of the vampires. So, how does this transpire in the anime that you think is really good?
Oh well, I mean it's really good, like in a way because not only we see the side of the military, but we also see the side of the vampires and how they use. I think what was that guy's name again? Mika, if I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
Mika.
Yes. Like we also see his part and why does he side with the vampires? Because after some time he wasn't really, in a way, he wasn't really just being there because no one was there with him, but he was also being there because he was siding up with the vampires. And he also knew that the military, the human military, they were like they were basically, you know, making some pretty shady stuff out. And I think the main guy was you. Yeah, you also basically, I think they did some experiment with you, which was pretty disturbing because like in the, I think the ending episodes of the first season, we could see how he transformed into something damn different and
Yeah.
definitely did not act as a human, which was very, very different.
And I also think the contrast of these two people in the orphanages that escapes, vampires find them, and then they escape from it really shows how that separation at a young age was a pivotal force in them joining two different sides.
Yeah,
It like embraces the idea that uh it kind of embraces the trope of star-crossed lovers. Eventually you'll be separate and then you find them on the other side, but the way you find them is in traumatic experiences.
oh yeah, like
Not, not,
exactly, I think.
and not like the total aspect of two trust lovers, but it's mostly the application of being separate, but now fighting against each other when you basically find each other again. So
Yeah, I also feel like you is the kind of character who is also very similar to Eren in
yeah,
the like personality wise, because he also despise vampires because of how traumatic his past was. So I think they also shared this relationship as well. Whereas Mika wasn't really siding with humans, but he definitely was, siding with you in a way. He wasn't really interested in humans, but he was interested in his friend and getting back his friends from, the human side, which
Yeah.
is, again, it's a different concept in its all, right? I mean, that's something that differs Seraph of the End and AOT in a way.
Oh yeah. And this also brings into question how you was found with the Moon Demon Company as well. You know, the though no their specialty is vampire extermination, uh and Survivor the Inn, elite military group that's famous within vampire extermination. Uh so yeah, they work in squads of 5 or more, smaller team might not survive with an armed vampire. Cases teamwork encourages members to think of each other as family. Mass produce enchanted gear, cursed gear, and also forward
Oh,
barriers with
yeah.
the Black Demon
The
series.
cursed gear was pretty bad because I think one of Yu's friends who also got the cursed gear with him was pretty like the
Yeah,
demon basically took over his body, but yeah, the end was well, so I guess that's better because you
yeah,
was like he was basically like Eren in a lot of ways because he also took this like cursed thing, like the cursed weapons very not properly. Like he agreed with the demon and everything just seemed so proper with him, but for someone who's pretty weak hearted, it could have been very deadly and serious.
yeah. And they also use a spellcraft as well to fight these immortal creatures. And uh,
Oh, yeah.
you in the end, actually turns into a vampire. So him being taken in by the vampire army really suggests that he was willing to turn as a vampire to fight for them.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That part was also like really good. And I
Mm.
also think that we don't get a lot of you and Mika's relationship in the first season,
Yeah,
except the part where, the childhood scene where they were
yeah,
basically orphans and everything. But we get a lot of that in I think the second season. I'm really
yeah,
not sure because I haven't watched that one yet.
yeah.
But yeah, like it was pretty good how they also and how the girl, Shinua, I guess her
Yeah.
name was. Yeah, and I think her part was also very good because we see how sarcastic she is, but also she is very brave and she has a very good control of her cursed gear.
And I also think within the okay. So I also think within everything of the vampire Mycula is changing sides for I think motivation of basically, well, if I can't win against the vampires, I might as well join them philosophy. So it
Oh
goes to
yeah,
show you
like yeah, because he had already given up on the thought that he
that.
can
Yeah.
never win, considering how they were treated as livestock,
Yep.
right? But you were still very determined to really get ahead and
Yep.
probably win against the vampires because he despised them so much.
Yep. So this brings basically a closing to the podcast. We talked about Attack on Titan, um, Von Evergarden, Down the Franks, and Seraph of the End. So any closing
Yeah.
statements?
Uh, well, I guess thank you so much, first of all. It was really fun to be on this podcast and, talk about anime and stuff because I really love anime and I think everyone does as well, whoever is watching this episode. And like, it was so amazing talking about such like cool animes and also getting into the war kind of scenarios in the animes. It was really good talking to you as well. So yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
And this is the conclusion of the 11th episode of NC Anime, military depicted in the anime setting. And different military operations operate differently. And thank you for joining us. And this is MC Anime signing off.